Welcome back. Time now 9:13. Well, many people are taking advantage of the nice warm weather we've been having here in Missouri, getting outside and some hitting the open road on their motorcycle. And that's why police are reminding people that May is National Motorcycle Awareness Month. They're taking this time to remind drivers to watch out for motorcycles. Police are also reminding motorcycle drivers about the rules of the road. Joining me today for more on this effort is Scott Decker, who works in the traffic unit for the Columbia Police Department. And Scott, this is hits close to home because you are actually a motorcycle officer for the city of Columbia, right?
That's right, I am. I have been doing that for the last 9 years.
And this is definitely something you want to make sure that people are driving cautious around you, as well as you're following the rules of the road too, like other motorcycle drivers.
Correct.
Yeah, and May is National Motorcycle Awareness Month, so we kind of want to take a look at some of the stats that we see in terms of crashes. Now, Columbia is pretty low in the terms of numbers of crashes in terms of deaths, but still the goal is always zero, right?
Sure, absolutely. Any life lost because of a crash is a tragedy.
And last year there was one death, as we see here. The goal, like we said, zero on that.
Yep.
And looking now statewide at the number of crashes, numbers are higher for that, right, for the statistics?
Yeah, they are. They seem to average around 80, even though, you know, one year they're in the 70s. A few years ago they were higher, and last year I think they were in the 80s.
And what can be attributed to that? Why do we see such high numbers statewide?
Well, I believe alcohol plays a large part of that. There's a lot. If we look back at our fatal crashes that Columbia's had, the majority of those are alcohol related. There's a couple of those that are inexperienced riders that have overridden their skills and they've crashed. And I think if you were to get the information from the crashes statewide, it might also reflect that alcohol is a large part of that.
And another factor I know you had mentioned when we were talking about setting up this interview, helmets too, people not wearing helmets or not having the proper helmet, right?
Yes. According to the Missouri Motorcycle Safety Program, they attribute 25% of the fatal motorcycle crashes, the riders are not wearing any helmet at all, or they're wearing a helmet that isn't DOT approved.
And it is a law to have a helmet here in Missouri, right?
It is.
And that's just one of the things, you know, this month, it's not just about drivers, hey, watch out for motorcycles. May is also to alert motorcycle drivers that you need to have the proper license and helmet. What are some of the things that are required of motorcycle riders?
Well, you have to have your motorcycle endorsement, like you said. You have to wear a DOT-approved helmet. A lot of folks like to wear novelty-style helmets, but they're not going to protect your head in the event of a crash. And then, you know, some of the things that I would recommend is wearing high visibility clothing. For example, my shirt that I'm wearing, we just went to these about 2 years ago. I made an effort for us to do that because I felt that it was important for us to be seen, because that's often what is heard from people that pull in front of motorcycles. They say, well, I just didn't see them. So this is an effort to help us to be more visible. Yes,
certainly. You're standing out right now. I like the color. And yeah, what can drivers do? Because like you said, sometimes, you know, you look behind your rearview mirror and you're, when did that motorcycle come behind me? I hope I didn't cut them off. What should we be doing out there on the road?
Well, for example, just a few weeks ago, I was on Providence by Kentucky, and there was a car that made a sudden lane change into my lane. And I stopped her and talked to her, and she admitted that she just absolutely did not check her blind spot. So as motorists, we need to be doing the things that we learned back when we were learning to drive. And those are, you know, signaling, checking our mirrors, checking our blind spots, taking the time to do those things so that we are being cautious. We're all in this together, so to speak. We all have family members, loved ones to get home to. And we need to each do our part.
Yeah, and motorcycles, like you said, checking the blind spot because they're smaller than cars, so you really need to watch out for everywhere near the vehicle. Now, I also want to talk about some of the efforts that you've been doing recently in terms of pedestrian safety and also bicycle safety. So it's a month of a lot of safety, last month and this month, focusing on a lot of not just car safety, but pedestrians and bicycles. How have those efforts been going? I know you kind of kicked things off last week with the bicycles.
Yeah, I think they've been really productive. I think some of the folks that we've talked with have been very receptive, particularly of the free light packages that we gave away last week, courtesy of Get About Columbia. Some of the folks that we talked to, you know, they admit, you know, they were riding earlier, it wasn't dark, and now they're out riding later and it's gotten darker. And they just didn't think that they needed to have them or weren't aware that they needed to. So that was really one of the goals that we wanted to set out to do, was to let the bicycling public know that they are required to have lights on according per city ordinance, but it's also for their safety.
Yeah.
It makes them to be seen.
This is what it all comes down to, safety. That's what you're doing all these campaigns for.
Absolutely, because, you know, to be honest, I truly care. I mean, nobody wants to be involved in crashes, let alone fatal wrecks. And anything we can do to prevent those, I think is worth it.
Certainly, I agree. Well, thanks so much for coming on. That's all the time we have. Thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate it.